I know, some of you came into this video unconvinced by the title, and let me explain before you get down that comment section. Yeah, I know it's 2024 and Russell Westbrook is nowhere near the player he was. The guard's not even a shadow of the dominant player who terrorized the NBA in his final years in Oklahoma.
Crawford turns it over, Westbrook with the punch!
Or even on the Washington Wizards.
Golden State against Boston, the lob to Westbrook! Oh, wow!
But Brodie still has qualities that aren't typical of your average NBA player. Because let's face it, no player who's capable of reaching the elite at this level of basketball has a common mentality or skill set. Despite the media campaign that's been waged on Westbrook over the last decade, he's not a locker room detriment. He's not that evil player they try to sell us. But what is clear, he's also not the most efficient guard, is he?
In the corner to Westbrook for three.
So, why is Russell Westbrook so important for the Denver Nuggets? Now, a lot of people, when they think about Russell Westbrook, they think about Oklahoma City Russ. In fact, a lot of people think that his prime ended when he left the Thunder. But nothing could be further from the truth. The second half of his season in Houston along with James Harden was incredible. And the season he played with the Wizards with Bradley Beal was also incredible. But since his time with the Lakers, he just hasn't been the same. He seems to have lost his confidence. He doesn't seem to be having fun with the game anymore.
Part is that he's broken. He's defeated. Russell Westbrook has no confidence.
It seems that, in a way, his transition to ever-changing modern basketball just hasn't happened. But all of his problems boil down to one: his outside shooting. We know Russell has never been a specialist. Yeah, he can't even say that he's been an average shooter at any point of his career. But his poor efficiency, coupled with the pressure of a big market like Los Angeles, ended up taking its toll. However, he seems to have reconverted his role. He looks like a much more dedicated defensive player, and it seems that his contribution can be positive if he's surrounded by the right players.
Hardest working sportscaster in the nation today. She's doing.
So, for what reasons can we expect Russell Westbrook to end up being an important piece in Denver? The first is the most obvious. At this point, people don't expect a triple-double average from him. No one expects Westbrook to be a big impact player in 2024, regardless of where he is. But there's a silver lining to that. Because Russ has never had such a little pressure on his shoulders, it's gotta be tough to be one of the best players in the world and see your athleticism not allow you to do what you once could. It has to be tough to watch defenses stop adjusting to you because of your inefficiency. It has to be tough to be one of the most criticized players in the league. But if one thing is clear, it's that Westbrook should be past this phase by now. Because honestly, this has been happening to him for years. And far from hanging up his boots, he seems to be as motivated as ever. It seems silly, but the absence of pressure is an aspect that most players respond positively to. And while Russ was one of those exceptions to whom that added pressure didn't affect him, it's true that the regression of his game has also changed, in part, his mentality. However, the second reason Westbrook may end up thriving in Denver may be the most important. Nikola Jokic was the one who wanted him to come to Colorado.
I've been told that Nikola Jokic has been pushing behind the scenes to get Westbrook to Denver.
And he made that clear from the start of free agency. If there's one thing the Joker knows from the dozens of times he's gone up against the former MVP, it's that Russ is a tremendously dedicated player. An attitude like his should always be welcomed in a locker room, from the way he mentors the younger players to the way he protects them. Let's not forget that just a few weeks ago, Westbrook lashed out at Rudy Gobert after the Frenchman shoved Christian Braun in an ugly way.
Christian Braun goes right at Gobert! Oh, what a slam from Christian Braun!
He knows he's no longer the focus of the offense, he's just a complement. But his ego knows it too. His personality, regardless of his production, is perfect for an NBA team. Plus, the modern league is one that requires great aggressiveness. You need feisty players who will do the dirty work if you want to get far in the playoffs. And Brodie's a player who doesn't mind getting his hands dirty. But if one thing is certain, it's that the leader of the team wants you on the roster. That's always a good sign. The third reason is very simple and at the same time very powerful. What was the last Nuggets caliber team that Westbrook has been a part of? I'd venture to say that last year's Clippers didn't have such a strong team despite the names on the roster.
Mavericks in the second round.
And the Lakers, in part because Russell took up so much of their payroll, were never really competitive. It's clear that the Wizards were nothing more than a mid-table team in the Eastern Conference, and that those Rockets, although they were very good, can't compare to a team that has a 3-time reigning MVP in the league. In fact, if we're honest, not even the Thunder after Durant's departure were anywhere near that level. So we're probably talking about this being the best team Westbrook's been on in almost a decade. A group of players that can help him mitigate his weaknesses and strengthen, well, his strengths.
Jokic ahead, Westbrook gonna ride it home. He goes!
Because also, one thing the Nuggets have is a lot of chemistry. The players that come into the rotation have been in the system for a long time. They're usually players who have been there for years and know the culture. They know Malone's game plan. They know in depth the style of play of their teammates. Just as this happened with Christian Braun, it's happening now with Peyton Watson or Julian Strawther. Westbrook's arrival is an exception, and after overcoming his adaptation period, he can offer many positive things for Denver. And if one thing's certain, it's that the Nuggets aren't crowded in their backcourt. There are basically only 4 guards in the rotation: Jamal Murray, Christian Braun, Julian Strawther, and Russell Westbrook. Not only is the former MVP guaranteed minutes, but he's also guaranteed opportunities to excel. He has a unique profile. We know he doesn't prefer shooting from the outside, which is incredibly detrimental to his offense, but we also know he's improved tremendously on the defensive end.
And it's blocked from behind by Westy.
We know he's a decent slasher, and we know he's a great playmaker with limited volume. And this kind of stuff shouldn't be taken for granted, because these aren't attributes you can find in any guard either. In fact, the last few draft classes have been loaded with scoring guards. So Westbrook has qualities that his teammates haven't mastered either. But one thing's true: if his efficiency doesn't improve, it's hard for these aspects to rebalance the scales. Let's talk about what's probably the most important factor: the Nuggets. The Nuggets need Westbrook. We all know the team's owners didn't want to get into the second apron. We know that their maneuverability was incredibly limited by the new CBA restrictions, so Denver barely had any money to attract free agents. I mean, what the heck, they didn't even have money to re-sign Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. But Russell's at a stage in his career where he's looking for the fit over money. In fact, the last few contracts he signed now shows us that his financial security is assured regardless of what he gets for the rest of his NBA career. So Denver was able to lure him in at a very low price. They had to turn things around after their elimination to the Minnesota Timberwolves in the second round of the playoffs last season.
They are advancing to the Western Conference Finals.
They had to turn around a project that was hanging on by a thread, and Westbrook was one of the best options. They need him to produce, though. As bad as his season has been in terms of efficiency, the Nuggets have won all 3 games in which Westbrook has been shooting well. In fact, he's been extremely important in those wins. But it's true that the guard seems to have only 2 ways: either play well or not at all. There are no grays when you look at his game log. Is that if they can get the good version of Westbrook on the court more regularly, he can become that important player that's able to change games from the bench.
Sexton is checking Russell Westbrook. Alley-oop to Westy, and he puts it away.
Finally, as most NBA fans know, is that this is his last chance. 36 years old and with 16 years under his belt, Westbrook's not going to be around much more. In fact, it's likely that this 2-year deal in Denver will be the last of his career, either by his own decision or by a decision forced by his deteriorating athleticism. It's something that happens to all players. But if Westbrook falls out of Denver's rotation, something that seems unlikely considering the lack of guards in the rotation, that could mean the end of his career. So he's forced to play well. He's forced to turn things around. And there's nothing more dangerous than the ambition of a player who's had a taste of the elite.